Daily Tax Minute. This is Tony Novak here to share a few points on how to stay out of tax trouble. Let's jump right in. Today's topic is saving money with Intuit. And before we get into the topic, I'll just acknowledge them because of the time of day I'm recording, apparently, and the bright light in the background. We have some glare and dark foreground. Apologize for that, but it's a function of the recording time. But in any event, let's Intuit, the world's largest provider of small business accounting and tax services. You know them by TurboTax and QuickBooks. And just a general comment: when you serve small businesses, as I do, it makes sense to be familiar, intimately familiar with Intuit, its products, its strategy, and planning, and its people. It doesn't mean that I have to be in love with them and love everything that they do. And I've described Intuit as a love-hate relationship for decades, and nothing is going to change. On the other hand, it does not make sense to simply ignore them and say, I'm not going to deal with them, I'm going to work with something else. That's just generally not a smart business strategy to ignore the dominant market segment provider. Normally in business, a company becomes dominant for a reason. It's not just by accident. There are some phenomenal advantages. There are also some phenomenal restrictions, including most recently price increase again, yet this past week. But I noticed that there are three very plain, very simple, very clear ways to save money. And so let's talk about them for a minute. So one is that if you are only using QuickBooks, if you run a small business, even a side gig, and you're using QuickBooks, and your only real purpose is to keep records because you have to for tax purposes or sales tax or wage tax, whatever, there is a simpler, cheaper version, and it's available through your accountant. It's called Ledger. It's $10 a month compared to significantly more, $50, $60, $70, $100 a month for the other versions. So it makes sense to take a look at that and see if it fits. The second thing is that if you do need, if you are a small business and you do need a full regular version of QuickBooks, there's two ways you can get it. You can go online and buy it yourself, or you can get it through your accountant. Your accountant can get a 30% discount, and there's nothing wrong with negotiating and passing that on. So there's, a third of the cost almost right there. It can be had, but of course you have to ask for it. You have to go through an accountant, and then you have to discuss how that pricing difference is going to save you some money. The third thing that just came up recently is actually being discussed by, I know for a fact, discussed by other tax professionals in podcasts today, is that TurboTax, QuickBooks and TurboTax are aligned where they offer business tax preparation. And you would expect, and in generally, the online services provided by offshore, that is, people in other countries, tend to be on the cheap side compared to U.S. labor rates. It turns out that's not the case with business tax returns. At least if you are thinking about having Intuit do your tax return, I am pretty sure that most local providers, including up to CPAs, are offering the exact same service at a lower price than Intuit is now publishing online. So I'm curious to see other discussion and how that evolves. But one screenshot being shared and discussed by other CPAs is for a small corporation tax return without a federal tax return, with the federal return without the state return included, just the federal, and only after the bookkeeping and financial statements are prepared, Intuit is charging $1,749. And that is above the market price for most markets, most CPAs, at least the independent small business firms that I work with. So there's 3 ways. Would love to hear your thoughts on Intuit, QuickBooks, TurboTax. It's an important part of our accounting small business ecosystem. Would love to hear your comments. I'm easy to reach on social media or contact me one-on-one. It's easy to schedule a time at taxproblems.cpa. I'll be back tomorrow with another Tax Minute.